When I was a kid, there was this commercial.
I believe it was for muscular dystrophy. And this teenager did pull-ups throughout the commercial.
I didn't really like the fact that I couldn't do 20 pull-ups.
Let alone pull-up after pull-up while having a conversation.
What was happening in reality, this kid was strong, but he wasn't doing 20 pull-ups and having a conversation and doing a commercial.
Is it was trick photography.
There are a lot of different versions of trick photography.
Programs and all that we have in the computer.
By turning and simply keeping the camera with me,
I can make it look like I am weightless. I realized that there's trick photography in words. Trick photography isn't just a photography thing. In fact, we're inherently tricksters of words as we try to influence and communicate our thoughts. The trick photography of words happens when the words we select somehow paint a picture that may or may not be 100% accurate, or it may be focusing you on certain things. So let me give you an example of this. True story, not only a true story, it actually happened. But I want to tell you where I met my wife. And the day I met my wife, she was the model in my sculpture class. And I'm sculpting this person, and I'm like, I've got to marry this woman. And believe it or not, 9 months later, we were married, and we have now spent 34 years together. I've been married way longer than I haven't. And it's been a really wonderful, long romance that all started from that day in sculpture class. Now, that's a true story, and it paints an impression over on your side. Now, let me tell you the same story, and I'm going to add one more detail, and just notice how the trick photography is adjusted from the first statement. So I want to tell you about the day I met my wife. I met her in the art building, and this was head study day. We were doing sculptures of faces and heads, and my eventual wife, to be, was the model in the class. And I remember sculpting her face, and I fell in love, if you can do that. I remember thinking, I've got to marry this person. And 9 months later, we were married, and now 34 years have gone by, and we've had a wonderful, exciting, and romantic marriage. Now, see the trick photography in there. The first version, I left out the fact that it was a head study day. So when I say, she was the model of my sculpture class, you picture what you picture. So which really is more accurate? The story where I just say she's the model in my sculpture class, or when I say she was the head study model in my sculpture class? Well, technically, they're both accurate. Maybe it depends on what I'm trying to evoke. If I'm trying to evoke the practical information that this is where we met, maybe more information does a better job. But if I'm trying to capture the magic of being attracted to someone, it might be better if I just say she was the model in my sculpture class and I said, this is the one. You feel more of that attraction and energy in the second one. It depends which truth I'm trying to articulate. Which kind of begs the question, what is truth anyway? And can we even capture it? Is truth accuracy? Or is truth the truth of experience? It really depends what you're trying to communicate. So let's go a little farther. Let's be more precise. I want to tell you about the day I met my wife, and it was in the art building in sculpture class, and I really, really, really had to go to the bathroom before. Actually, I had a whole bunch of coffee before class because I hadn't had enough sleep, so I drank a lot of coffee, and I had to go to the bathroom, and then I had to go to the bathroom like 6 times during the class. And she was the model in my sculpture class. And I said, I've got to marry this person. 9 months later, we were married, and 34 years later, we still have a wonderful romantic marriage. All right, so that's actually more accurate. But why would you put that information in? The more accurate, it's more precise, it gives more information. So is that what truth is? Is truth You can go way too far on the information that isn't about what you're trying to say. And that colored the story completely differently from the truth of its romantic message. If you really wanted to be accurate and share completely the precise circumstances around an experience, if you really wanted to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, you would take 24 hours to describe a 24-hour process. No one has time for that. So what we do is a couple of things. First, we take stuff out, or more likely in our sea of thoughts, we pluck certain thoughts together. Then we sequence them. And you can adjust the sequence by putting them in different order. It depends what tells the story the best. Another thing we'll do is we'll combine experiences from several different stories. So say you have client experience, and the perfect experience never really quite happened, but the best part was from there, and another best part was from there, and another great part was from there. Combine them into one story. It's technically fiction. It's technically inaccurate, but the truth you're trying to speak to is what makes a project work. So do we really care if someone plucks 3 different experiences, amalgamates them together into one experience so that you get the point we're trying to say? We're trying to teach you from our experience how to do a project perfectly. In the case of my story about my wife, what I'm trying to capture is the magic of this inescapable attraction. You might tell a story because you want someone to feel the fear you had, or understand and empathize with a pain or something negative or something positive. So sometimes we actually add parts in that weren't there. So think about it this way. Imagine if you had a story that was really emotionally gripping for you, and yet when you tell the details, it's not landing over there. So you add in a detail. And he put his hand on the door and wouldn't let me pass. Well, maybe he didn't really do that, but in the experience, the way he was looking at you, this nuance of body language meant to you that you couldn't move past and you were scared. When you tell somebody he looked at me and I didn't feel like I could go past, they're not getting the experience. So we might add in pieces. And now begs the question, is that less true? Well, think about it. If I'm trying to tell you accurately, like say to a police officer, what happened, that's probably not as useful. If I'm trying to capture the emotional experience for you of being afraid of somebody who's blocking my path, and it's not communicating, the actual facts might do less to communicate your truth. And maybe you're going to embellish, add a thing in there so that someone can experience what you really experienced. When I look at dialogue, communication in general, there's trick photography going on there, and I think it inherently has to be there. We don't have time to watch the scene by scene, moment by moment movie of everything that you've ever experienced. We have to edit. We can edit by condensing or only plucking out certain things that show what we want to show. We can resequence in order to communicate, and we can add things in that maybe didn't even happen, the embellishing. And in my view, that's okay if you're clear on what truth you're trying to present. Is it the truth of chronology and circumstance? Is it accuracy? Is it this happened, this happened, this happened? Is it an experience that you want someone to feel that you felt? That is a different sort of truth. Is it a life lesson that you can't quite pinpoint the right example, but you're bringing different things in so that they will get the truth of the life lesson you're teaching? Or is it an emotional experience that is the truth that you're sharing? And we embellish or adjust in order to make sure that when we tell you, you feel the experience we're trying to communicate about. So know what your truth is. Recognize the trick photography and the different versions of truth that exist so that you can be precise, or you could embellish, or you could resequence, or you could combine, or you could carefully handpick the details so that someone experiences the truth that you are trying to share.
For the record,
I can totally do the pull-ups.